All right, here we go. We just started the recording. Very exciting. Welcome to my shop here. And we are going to be talking about Onshape for FRC. In the past, I've done Onshape for FTC. And it's pretty much going to be very similar material, but I'm going to use FRC kind of parts. And we'll talk a little bit more about things that you do with an FRC robot rather than an FTC robot. If you have not ever used Onshape before? Well, let me just say, if you've never done CAD before, hopefully you will find this very interesting. If you have done some CAD with SolidWorks or Autodesk Inventor, Onshape is a very, very nice program for doing things online. It's really geared towards doing things in a collaborative way online with lots and lots of people. And so we're going to focus a lot about, at least with your time with me, we'll focus a lot on how to make Onshape work for your team with a team of people. And then I'm also going to show you some of the stuff that you're going to learn. So, all right. So hopefully everybody's got that. Again, that link is in the chat. So hopefully we're going to get everybody to do an account, and then you're going to join my team. And then I'm going to give you a quick demo about what Onshape does. We'll try doing a little bit of assembly. We'll do a little bit of drawing. And the biggest thing is I want to talk about how to take a tour of the online tutorials. And then the other big one is how to download 3D parts from vendors successfully. Because you can download stuff, it's not too hard, but it's really easy to make a complete mess of it. And I can show you, we'll end up looking at some of my FTC, team's library mistakes, because we've had lots and lots of people download stuff inappropriately or not in a good way. Hang on a second, I got to turn this thing over. There we go. All right. So, all right. Everybody got an Onshape account at this point? Thumbs up if you've got an Onshape account. Hello, Sonic Squirrels. All right. And hopefully I'm going to go to my, I'm going to go and add you all to my team really quick. And actually, one of the things I'm going to show you is how to add people to teams. And so one of the cool things about Onshape is it's designed to be online, working with lots of people. So I'm going to sign in with my account, and ignore this for a sec. This is my account that I do tons and tons and tons of stuff with. You won't have this much stuff in yours, but you can see that I have some teams, and I'm going to go to pick one of my teams here. There we go. And somebody on your team, whether it's a mentor or a student, needs to create a set of directories or folders for your team. And and then add people to your team. So here, I've done this already for this OSK thing, but I just realized we're going to go back and I'm going to create a new one called, so I'm going to create, okay. Onshape has two things. It has folders and it has documents. And so you can see everything you're looking at right here on my screen right now is a folder. They always appear first. And then after that are individual documents. So folders are just what you would expect on your computer. It's a folder that you can put stuff, and documents are where you put things, is where you actually do drawings and assemblies and stuff. So I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'm going to call it Onshape with Kevin. Okay, and you'll see it show up here. So that's pretty cool. That was pretty easy. And if I open this thing up, well, it's empty, right? I'm going to back up one again, and I'm going to create another one called, I'm going to create another folder called Onshape with Kevin library. So I've created two of these folders. Okay, there they are right there. And those are the ones I'm going to end up sharing with you all are these two folders. Okay. And one of them is where all of our team's files are going to end up in Onshape with Kevin. And the other one is going to be our library. And the library is where, as a team, we're going to stuff all of our things. So things that get downloaded from like AndyMark or Rev Robotics or whatever, that we want to use across the project and potentially reuse, we'll stick in a library file. The reason that I created these two folders is one of them will be shared with the whole team. Everybody will be able to edit things in that folder. And the other one is going to be usable by everyone, but only editable by people who are declared as librarians or specific people. And the reason for that is that you kind of don't want people going in and making willy-nilly changes to your library files because they can screw up the entire project, right? If that makes sense. All right. So, so I've got these two directories now, and I would actually now like to share them with a new team. So I'm going to go to my account. You can see up, sometimes it's being hidden by the gallery window for Zoom, but up here in the far upper right is my account. And if I go to my account, it will bring this up. And there might be a bunch of other stuff that doesn't look the same as yours, but there's another section called Teams. And so I am going to create a new team. And I'm going to, these are teams that I've already had. We're going to create a brand new team just for us. And so I'm going to create a team, and I'm going to call it Onshape with Kevin. Okay. So I have created a team, and it turns out that since I own it, it went ahead and put me in. And there are two kinds of people. I can be an admin, that's me, and I can also add students. And so if you've all visited that link that's in the chat and filled in that form, then I'm going to find you over here in this other window, just real quick. And there we are. Oh, wow. A lot of people signed up. Cool. All right. Hang on a sec. I'm going to grab this in Excel. And it turns out that if you do a form like I did, you can actually open it in Excel. And looks like I'm about to add a whole bunch of people all at once. So just the form data comes through looking like this. So I have a nice long list of people, and I'm going to copy that nice long list, and I'm going to add all of those email addresses here as members. And so it should work, and it'll take just a sec. And hey, look at that. Looks like everybody showed up just nicely. So you are all now official members of the Onshape with Kevin team. And I don't remember if it's going to tell you or not, but it might. But you can see you're all actually listed as members. So yay. What does that mean? Well, that means that now I'm going to go back to my Onshape account. And if I look under Teams, you'll see Onshape with Kevin is a new Teams thing. If you have Onshape open and you refresh it, you should end up with that directory.
Hey, Kevin, you might have had a few stragglers that ended up not getting it on the list.
Oh, no worries. So new stragglers for those of you who didn't get in on that. Oh, I see. That's okay here. If you've added yourself to the list, I will reopen I will re-get the responses real quick. And then, hey, look, we're going to go see how to add people later. So there's responses, open it in Excel, and it's going to whine at me because it's already open, but that's okay. Nothing but love. Where did my Excel spreadsheet go? Oh, there it comes. Give me a sec. Michael has Tom. Okay. Oh, Ron, actually, I think you were already on the list from before, weren't you? If not, if you could post your email address in the chat. The email address you gave isn't actually valid. No worries. Hey, so watch me do this again. So my account, my team members, Onshape with Kevin, and I'm going to add these nice folks. Radmed did not make it, and I'm going to check the chat real quick. Yeah, there's always this happens every time we do one of these live classes. There's always a group. Tim, Alex. All right. There we go. We'll add some more. And oh, here comes another one. I'll keep an eye open for new folks showing up. That's awesome. I think I will just actually duplicate this window, and I'm going to leave this one open, and I'm going to move it out of the way in case I need to add more. All right. So there we go. So now if you go, your teams should now list Onshape with Kevin. Is everybody got that? Who's missing? Go ahead and unmute yourself, by the way, if you need to say something. Everybody got that? Got an Onshape with Kevin?
Yep.
I may not have it. Don't worry about it for the moment.
You may not have it, and you okay? Sounds good. Zoe, I'm going to get you here real quick, and then we're going to move on, and I will come back and do this a few more times. I'm sure. Okay, so if you click on Onshape with Kevin, you'll see that no documents have been shared, and so one of the first things that somebody on your team needs to do is to establish a team, get all of your email addresses in there, and so here's what we're going to do is I'm going to go to Onshape with Kevin, that directory, and I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to click the share button. Okay. And so I am going to share this with the team. So you can share it with individual people. You can give them individual email access, or you can do things as a team. And you can see that it's going to allow me to edit. And so I can edit or just view. So you can be view only, but you're all going to be able to edit. And I would like Onshape with Kevin. So now all of you should end up with, if you refresh again and click on Onshape with Kevin, you should have the Onshape with Kevin directory. Okay. I'm going to now, so this is the directory where all of my team members are going to be able to add files and edit. And so this is sort of the main directory that everybody's going to be working in. I have one more directory that I'm going to share with everybody, and that is Onshape with Kevin library. And so I'm going to now do a share on that, and I'm going to do teams, and I'm going to select my Onshape with Kevin team. And at the moment, I'm going to make everybody have read-only access to this. You can view it. I'm going to allow you to link to it, and I'm going to allow you to copy out of it. But you're not going to be able to edit the files in there. Okay, so all right, that's what I'm going to do. So now you should end up with a second file in there. So now when I look at Onshape with Kevin, you can see that there's a library file and this directory. Okay, so you'll be able to look around and find stuff in here and link to the documents that I'm going to give you. So how I work this with my team is that I've got a couple of trusted people who know very clearly how to download things and to create library files for everybody else to use that are done in a very specific way, so that we don't all start importing bad parts. If you go look at my Stealth Robotics team's library, it's full of crap. And so I highly recommend that you assign a couple of people who are willing to take a little bit of time to become your team's librarian. Okay. In Onshape with Kevin, we can all go in here. So if you've got your computer open, go to Onshape with Kevin, and we're all going to create our first document. And so again, folders are like file folders on your computer, but you can do a create document, and I'm just going to put in my name just so I know who it is, and I'm going to create a new document, and it's going to open up and look like this. Now, if you've just created your Onshape account, when you if you logged in, it may have asked you some questions like default units, default mouse buttons and stuff. Hopefully you just kind of pick the defaults for all of that stuff. So anyway, so there you can see I've just created a file. I'm going to open up another window just to see how everybody else is doing in Onshape with Kevin. Hey, look at all of these nice people who have managed to create files. Yay, team. I'll refresh it one more time. And oh, look at that. All kinds of people are having success. Okay. So I'm going to assume that you're all going to get the hang of that. Again, what you did is you went to create document, gave it a name. Cool. Quick tour of what you're looking at here. As opposed to other CAD programs, if you're an experienced CAD user and haven't used Onshape before, Onshape is kind of cool in that all of the parts that you would make and all of the assemblies that you would make, you can put them into one single document, and so it's really cool that way. For lots of reasons, this is a super good idea. You can actually copy an entire design, and you can do version control and a bunch of other stuff that we'll talk about here in a minute. There are strategies that we're going to talk about how much stuff you should put in a single document, and there are actually reasons for breaking things up into other documents. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but this is the base document that you use. You look down here at the bottom. You'll find a thing called a part studio. A part studio is where you draw and extrude things in order to actually make your own parts, right? If I click over here on assembly, okay, well, first of all, before I click off of that, in part studio, you can see you can do sketches, and it has a whole bunch of things up here where I'm not going to jump into all those already. But if I go down here to the bottom and I click on assembly, and as I click, watch how that menu changes. And now there's a bunch of other different things. And if you're a CAD aficionado already and familiar with the other programs, you can take parts that you've imported or downloaded and or created, and you can insert them in here and put parts together. And so you can do you can do mates of things, and we're going to touch on all of these here in a few minutes. There's different ways of assembling things and a bunch of other things you can do. So part studios and assemblies are different. Part studios is where you draw things. Assemblies is where you put them together. Okay, good so far? Anybody have any questions? I'm going a mile a minute here. Who's got questions? Unmute or chat. I'm easy either way. Meanwhile, I'm going to make sure that I got Yamini. All right, I see you. I'm doing that in another window while you weren't looking. So Yamini, you should be there now. Take a look.
Kevin, it's Tim BD. It may just be me, but I'm not seeing the bottom of your screen where the tabs show.
Oh, really? Okay.
Maybe others are.
Anybody else? Ron, can you repost your email address for me?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Tim, it comes and goes for me depending on how I've got the focus arranged. If the title bar is up in the bottom, then that hides that bottom of Kevin's screen.
I can solve it by doing this. Does that work better?
Still not for me, but if others are seeing the tab, then good enough. Keep on going.
All right, sounds great. Oh, Ron, there you are. Okay, anybody else missing from the team? Ron, here you come. I got Ron, I got there we go. There's another one. Okay, sorry about the administrivia. It happens all the time. Life's good. All right. Oh, what's catching fire, Alex?
It's just a milling machine incident. Move on.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So so we've got this thing, what the hell are we supposed to do with it, right? And so since this is FRC, I thought, well, the most common thing that a lot of times it will do is we'll download parts and want to stick them in an assembly. So I think that's a really important step, and it's it'll allow you to see how I do the library stuff. Okay, so we're going to go visit Andy Mark, and let's go grab some wheels. So here on Andy Mark, I'm going to go to mechanical, and I'm going to go over to, how about Mecanim wheels? Let's get a couple of Mecanim wheels. Okay, and this is FRC, so we use some 6-inch Mecanim wheels, and most of the first vendors have downloadable parts for you to use. And so we're gonna scroll down here a little ways, and almost everybody's got the same sort of layout. Somewhere you're going to find documents, somewhere you're going to find CAD files. And the most common CAD files for us to use are these step files. So I'm going to download that step file. You can see it downloading here. I think I just got the left one, and I'm also going to get the right one because it turns out Mecanim wheels have 2 of them. So you can see there are 2 of them here. There's a right one and a left one. Okay, so cool. Well, these are now actually sitting on my computer at home in my downloads directory. I need to delete these 2 real quick. There we go. So it turns out I downloaded them previously, so I'm going to use these guys. And you can see I've got tons of step files and all sorts of things that I import. So we would like to use these in our project. So if everybody, if you wanted to go do that, once again, go to andymark.com, go to Mecanim wheels, and why don't you try downloading a Mecanim wheel, or both of them. You'll end up with a right hand and a left hand one. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you think you're done with that step. Did everybody manage to download a step file? There's one. Okay. If not, you can just follow along and watch, because this is not terribly magical. So I'm going to go back to here's my Kevin Ross file, and you can see assembly 1 here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to import those files directly here. And this is an important set of steps I want everybody to pay attention to, is if I click on this and I do an import, whoops, let me do that again. Down here at the bottom is a plus sign, insert new element. I'm going to click on it, and I am going to do an import. Hopefully you see that. If you click on that, it will bring up, this up, and I am going to pick that step file, and I'm grabbing the one I downloaded yesterday, but there it is right there. There's a right one and a left one. And then I'm going to hit open. And what this does is it brings up this little import into Onshape, and it gives you a bunch of options. Okay. So in general, unless you have a really good reason for doing it otherwise, always download this stuff and combine into a single part studio. You always want to click the one on the right. If you click the one on the left, you may end up with an enormous mess in your file. So I always click on this one to the right. There's another one down here that says create a composite part when importing multiple or non-solid bodies. And this can be particularly useful if you're downloading a super complicated thing. It's also that little checkbox, this thing, you can actually modify later. So I'm going to leave it unchecked for now. Okay. So combine into single part studio, create that, and then I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to upload it. It's about 6 megabytes long. And then it's going to say importing. And what it's doing right now is it's processing it and making it into a native file for Onshape. And you can go away and do other things while it's importing. In fact, I am actually going to, I just imported the right one. I'm going to go import the left one, do the same exact thing to the left one. Here it is. And I want to combine to a single part studio and then hit OK. Right. And so it's working in the background on the fancy server that they have over there on Onshape, and it's importing stuff, and it will let you know when it's done. And actually, what interesting enough will happen is, well, all of a sudden you'll find a part studio get created in your file here. Yay team, we're kind of hanging out waiting for that little import to finish. So meanwhile, while it's doing that, a little tour of things that you can insert. So we're going to let that run a little while. Assemblies, you need to insert things. So if I click, you can come up here and click on the insert button, and it'll bring up this little dialogue here. And this is where you're going to end up finding things to insert. The three big tabs are the current document, which will allow you to insert things that are in your document. Mine's called Kevin Ross. Substitute your name there. So you'll be able to insert things that you've created in this document. You can also insert things from other documents. And if I hit the home directory, you may end up with some files that you don't have access to yet, but that's okay. We'll get there. It'll show you your files, things created by you, shared with me. It'll also list your teams. So you can actually look in here and like OnshapeWithKevin, it will show me all of the files that are associated with that team. If with my other teams, like, you know, we have a ton more stuff. We've been running for a while with Stealth Robotics. So we have lots and lots of things. Now, the cool thing is in Onshape, you can import anything from any file. And that's kind of a nice touch. You can actually go import from a file just a single little part of something, or you can import an entire assembly from something. It's pretty cool. You can also actually go and publicly search for things. And this can be actually pretty useful. If I hit public, this is every file that has been shared by everybody across the world in all of Onshape. There are bazillions of things in here. The quality of some of the stuff is kind of iffy. So, you know, you may start to see people that do a good job at importing things or publishing things. And for the most part, most of it's garbage. So be a little careful on the public part. Okay. So anyway, but there are different places that you can import stuff. And then the third tab is called standard content. And this is where you go find nuts and bolts and screws and that sort of stuff. And it's a little form that you start at the top and you work down through the bottom. So we're going to end up using this a couple of times, but you would basically say, you know, hey, the standard, I can use ANSI inch, or I can use ISO, which means metric. So I can do an ANSI inch bolt and screw, and I can select the size, you know, and so you kind of go down this list, filling this in. And there are different kinds of things. I can do socket head screws. I can do, you know, hex bolts, and each one of them will allow me to pick stuff. So that's pretty fancy. So those are the things you can import. It turns out that when you hit the other documents button, there's a lot of stuff that you can import. Okay. I don't know why this is taking so long, so I'm going to close this real quick. And then I'm going to look again. For whatever reason, it is taking its sweet time on that import. Usually this is relatively fast. Don't know what's going on. So we're going to let that churn for a little bit. Or I'm going to go open up another document because I've already imported these in another place, but I was hoping that this was going to go quickly. All right. Well, hey, tell you what. We'll let your guys' import and churn here for a little bit. Meanwhile, I'm going to go and do an insert, or I'm going to go open the document that I imported these into yesterday. So you're not going to be able to follow me on this one just yet. That's okay. Whoops, that's not where I wanted to be. Sorry. These are the parts that we're importing at the moment. I imported them yesterday, so just to make sure that they worked. And so you can see that this import, there it is. There's a Buchanan wheel in all of its lovely gory detail. And you can see that as an imported thing, it imported a bazillion parts. That's an important thing to distinguish, is that when you import something from like AndyMark or somewhere like that, depending on how it was exported, you may end up with just a single solid body, or you may end up with every individual part. And so this one ended up with every individual part, which is fine. But there are some tricks that you need to know on how to deal with that. I'm going to test over here. Oh, okay. So they've now shown up. Sorry. So, but that's what it was. That's what it is going to look like. I'm now jumping back over to the file we were in. You can see that I now have these new part studios. See them down there at the bottom? These are the parts that we just imported. And I'm going to click on one. And you can see here it is. And look at that. There's all of those parts we were just talking about and I showed you. And so very, very cool. And it looks good and it looks like an insertable thing. And so I'm now going to show you the reason. I'm now going to show you one of the downfalls, and one of the reasons that you need to be careful when you import parts is you're not done yet. And the reason that you're not done yet is if I go to my assembly, right? So down here at the bottom, I've clicked on assembly 1. Okay, go ahead and do that if your part imported, and then you're going to do an insert. And if I go to my current document, you can see that there are these two parts. And if this thing's called a spin down control. Can you see the greater than sign there? That little spin down control, if I touch that, you can see this is what it's going to insert. Okay, fair enough. I'm just going to insert this whole thing right there. Boom. And then I hit the green check mark. And that looks like what we wanted to have happen, doesn't it? And so that's really cool. Now, the thing that's going to send you for a little bit of a loop here, folks, is that all of these are the individual parts and they are spatially related to each other in a very loose fashion, but nothing is mated. And so all of these are actually individual parts. So if I went and grabbed this and tried to drag something, I'm actually dragging all these individual parts, and it kind of probably isn't what you had in mind. Can we all agree on that? You wanted to insert a wheel and use the wheel. You didn't want to deal with the nut and the washer and the individual bolt and the spacer, right? Okay, so that wasn't as much fun as we wanted. So I'm going to undo all of those moves I just did. Okay, so I could choose a couple of ways there are 2 ways to deal with this. One of them is I'm going to undo that insert because I don't want to insert that big mess. I'm going back to this thing. See that? And see up here where it says import 1. So this is in my part studio, by the way. See where it says import 1? If I edit this, I can do something called create a composite. And that, if I click that and hit the green check mark, it's going to churn on this for a moment. And what it's doing is it's creating a composite part out of all of those things. And so instead of a whole bunch of little individual parts, it's now imported it as a thing. And and I can look at the composite and see, look, it's now treating this as a single unit. And so that works out pretty good. So now I'm going to go back over to the assembly and I'm going to do an insert. And you can see that the left wheel has disappeared. And now you're confused. Where the hell did it go? Well, for whatever reason, I'm trying to get Onshape to change this. You have to turn on composite parts. That's this little checkbox here. And now I can insert that left wheel. Bang. Okay. And you can see that now it is a single unit and we can use that. And that's what you intended to have happen in the first place. You just wanted to use a wheel. So, moral of the story, if you're importing something and you're not exactly sure what it is, you might think about importing it as a composite part. Okay. So, and if you imported it not as a composite part, you can actually go back, re-edit your import, edit it, and make it into a composite part. Make sense? We good with that? All right.
Yeah.
Super cool. Yay. So now I can come over here, and then when I do an insert again, current document, part studios, but now you can see that little check mark went away because we only have composite parts, so it's showing them all to me. So I'm going to insert a right-hand version of the wheel. They are different, by the way. Okay, so there we go. So now I got a couple of nice FRC parts that I can use. Am I happy with these? I am happy with these. And so I've downloaded this, and since I am a librarian in my world, I can decide I would really like to put these in a library file. Cool. So a couple different ways of doing this. I could go over, I'm opening up a new tab up here, and I'm doing that by hitting Control Onshape, or you can just, if I hover over the Onshape, hold the Control button and click it, it will take me to this window. I'm going to go into my library. I'm going to create a new document. And I'm going to call that document Andy Mark Mechanics. Okay, there we go. So that is a new document that's there. Yay. And now I'm going to go back to my other part. So I just created my first library file, and this is going to show up in your directory, by the way. So now I can take these files and I can move them. And so this is for those of you who are thinking about how to make library parts. The way you do this is that you come down here to the very lower left into the tab manager, and you're going to take these two files, that one and that one. Whoop, sorry. That one and shift that one. So there's the two that I'm going to move, and I can right click them and I can say move to document, and it's going to move these two parts in their entirety, and I'm going to put them. I could make a brand new document right here, or I can go to other documents and I can go to OnshapeWithKevin into the library. Now you won't be able to follow along on this into my library file, but if you want, you can create your own little library file right in this directory, in the OnshapeWithKevin directory if you wanted to. And I'm going to put them in that file. It's now asking me for a target version number. Just for now, just yay, hit move. And it is going to move those two tabs out of my file here. So I'm going to close this. You can see, remember the two tabs that we had down there? They've been moved. They stayed in my assembly. So when you move things in files, they're just entries in a database. So they all got moved, and now they're insertable. So everybody ready to insert a library file? If you want, you can now, from your file, you can now do an insert, other documents, my OnshapeWithKevin, library file. Now you should all have access to Andy Mark Mechanics. You should be able to click on that, and you should find those two files I just uploaded. They're now officially library parts. How am I doing? Is that okay? Oh, your navigation menus and mine are different, so I'm able to follow your clicks. Thank you for pointing that out.
Kevin, I'd say it's just that you're clicking rapidly through things, and I can't see where you actually click and where you're just dragging the mouse across something.
Oh, outstanding.
I don't realize what it is that opens things.
Yep, sorry, I'm going too fast. I apologize. I'm going to do that whole thing one more time. You ready? Lower left, down here in the lower left, tab manager. Very, and so when I open the tab manager, that's where this showed up. That makes sense? Got it, Steve? All right. And now I'm going to close that again. And if I do an insert, that's under my name up here at the top left.
Okay.
Okay.
And there are the two parts. Yeah.
There are the two parts. Yeah. Now I can hit the home button. Sorry, that I will. So I hit the home button, which is here. And I ended up with this menu, right?
I
Now-
don't have a home button.
What do you have?
I've got insert parts and assemblies, the menu below that. And then I've got Steve T document main, and then the part studios and assemblies as choices underneath that.
Okay, so click in the middle on other documents.
On other documents. Okay, that's where, got it.
And the little icons here, a little bit confusing. That's supposed to be a group of people.
Right,
So where it says Bearcat Robotics and
yeah, okay.
yeah, so these
Got
are my
it.
other teams. Onshape.
I've got your
Kevin there?
library. Yep,
And then, so I've clicked on Onshape with Kevin, and then
right,
in the libraries, and at the moment, I'm the only librarian. I'm going to show you how to assign other people to be librarians in just a sec. But Onshape with Kevin, and there you should find Andy Mark Buchanan. Okay.
got it.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. So how am I going to make Steve Tarr be one of the librarians? Right. So I've decided that, hey, I'm liking this, but I'd like help. I would like one or two other people in my little universe here to be able to help me edit libraries. And so, Steve, I trust you. So I'm going to go to my account. And I am the owner of this thing, by the way. And I'm going to go to Teams. And I'm going to select Onshape with Kevin. Oh, actually, that isn't what I wanted to do. I apologize. Not what I wanted to do. I was close. I'm going back to my main directory here. Okay. I'm going to Teams, Onshape with Kevin. Okay. And the library file, Onshape with Kevin library. This is what I actually wanted to change. I'm going to right click this. I'm going to change the sharing. Right now, the entire team can view, copy, link, export, comment. I'm now going to add Steve Tarr. What? Hey, Steve, what was your email address?
Steve T 19759.
Steve T 1. Oh, okay. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is global. All right. Yeah, that's Greg Needle from Rev Robotics right there. I don't know any of these people other than
Try Stephen Tarr with a PH. STEPH.
Stephen.
Space.
Oh, AN or EN?
EN space TARR. There you go, Steve T.
There you go. Okay. Steve Tarr can now edit this thing, edit and link and stuff. Okay. So if I do this, I just made Steve a librarian. And so whoever owns this directory, this library directory, can assign people. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So now Steve should be able to go in there and also edit library files. And so what, again, with your team, I would highly recommend, like probably the CAD mentor and maybe a couple of students who feel comfortable enough doing this sort of thing should be able to edit. Okay. It's a good way of doing things. All right. Couple things I just want to show you real quick that are super unobvious. You all, if you go to Onshape with Kevin, and I'll just show you. So me, if you were to look in this directory, I guess, folder, you'll see that all of the files are owned by Kevin Ross, modified by you. Funny thing, if you were to go and look at this list and right click on something, you can move and do a whole bunch of stuff. What you can't do is delete it. So the owner of the folder is the only person who can delete files. Okay. And there's good reasons for that. And it's just the way it is. So normally, it's kind of a pain in the ass, actually, because if you go in and create a turd file, now you want to get rid of it. You as a person are not able to do that. So I highly recommend that your team adopt the following strategy, which is the owner ought to create a folder and call it the trash folder. Okay. And so now if I create a document called turd, so I've just created a new document, and I really all of a sudden didn't want that. I can actually right click it and move it, and I can move it to the trash folder. Okay. And so now the trash folder contains one turd, and hey, look at that. Hollister figured it out, moved a file into the turd thing, right? And so that's where and now whoever owns the directory every now and then will have to go through to the trash folder and delete all the turds. But that's how you sort of clean up files that you didn't want, because you're not able to delete things. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Again, this is not terribly sexy CAD stuff, but if you adopt this sort of structure of having a starting team directory, a starting team library directory with the appropriate permissions, and now as you start to turn people loose inside, you can work towards keeping things organized. Okay. Hey, let's have some fun. I would like everybody to see if you can go back to the Onshape with Kevin directory. And I would like you all to go find the Kevin Ross file and double click it. Everybody go find the Kevin Ross file and double click it. Okay, so what we're seeing here is you've all opened my file. We're all working in the same file at the same time. So I'd like you all to feel free to, you're all going to insert your own bolt. So go to assembly 1. I want you to go to insert, create standard content, ANSI inch, bolts and screws, and pick your favorite bolt. I don't care. I'm going to do an 11-inch quarter 20, right? So I am planning on doing that, and I am going to insert one, and I'm going to put it right here. And there's my 11-inch one, and then I'm hitting OK. And you can see that we can all actually edit the same file at the same time. Now, I don't know what the maximum limit of this is, but we've had a lot of people do this. So again, if you're in the assembly 1, you're going to do insert. I see some of you are in my part studio. So go down to the bottom. Instead of part studio, click on assembly 1. Do an insert, standard content, ANSI inch, hex bolt, pick your favorite length, doesn't matter. And so standard content, and then just hit the insert button, and then click over here somewhere. Who's lost? Anybody?
I am Tim BD. It says in mine, this document is view only.
Really? So you're in, you went to Onshape, Kevin RO.
Kevin Ross.
Kevin Ross. All right.
Yeah, I can see lots of things being inserted into this. I'm clicked on assembly 1. And mine says document is view only.
Oh, interesting. Hang on a sec, Tim. Oh, Tim, put your email address in my in the chat box real quick, will you?
Yeah.
Tim Bennington Davis, did you use Deckhouse? It's Deckhouse, is that right?
Yes.
Deckhouse.cs.com. All right. I don't know why. You are a member of the team. I'm going to call it a bug. Okay. Anyway,
Kevin, where are you clicking? You're clicking on the menu up at the top that says insert.
Yes.
Okay.
This insert. Okay, and you're going to get something that looks insert parts and assemblies, and then standard content.
Right.
And then
that's
fancy inch. All right. Okay, now everybody, we're gonna do our first assembly. It's going to be a nightmare, but that's okay. We're going to do a fastened mate, and so we're going to, and you can this this becomes a game of musical chairs. So what you do is you do a fasten to meet. Okay, that's up here on the top bar. It's the third thing, or 2 to the right of that, and pick your bolt, and then by hitting that, and it'll tell you that that's where it is, and then go find one of these holes and insert it, and then hit the check mark. And you can see we can all actually sit here and assemble things. Parts start moving all over the place because we haven't done a really great job of we haven't done a super decent job of setting this up, but it's all good. So, but you can see we can all work in the same file at the same time. So that there's advantages and disadvantages to that. And I don't know why, Tim, you're not, what, I don't understand. You might need to hit refresh or something. But anyway, we can all see stuff moving around, right? Yay. Cool. In your own file, well, okay, so if you're working online, this can be really pretty cool. If 2 people are working on the same like main assembly, and you need to do something in a couple of places, or you have a nice repetitive thing, multiple people can go in and poke at stuff. The reality is that the problem is if I start hitting undo here, watch this, I can actually undo all of your hard work. So I just undid a whole bunch of people's hard work, right? So that was me hitting undo. I can redo everybody's hard work, and it's working on it. So that's the one downside to everybody working in the same file at the same time, is that you might do something and somebody else somewhere else makes a mistake and doesn't undo. And yeah, you know, so anyway, but it's got its uses. So as a team, that's one of the things that you can do, is you can actually work in the same file. All right. I'm pointing this out because there's a lot of things you can do with this program you can't do with SolidWorks or Inventor. You can do some of it with Fusion. It works. Some of it works okay with Fusion, but this one is really set up for this. Okay. We haven't drawn anything yet. So what I'd like to, so I have taught this online a number of times, and it turns out that Onshape has really, really good online tutorials. And so I'm going to encourage you to watch this carefully so I can show you where the online tutorials are. Okay. So if you look at my screen and you look up here and you see the Learning Center. If you click on the Learning Center, it's going to bring up this new screen. We could spend hours, weeks, and months me teaching you all of the stuff that they teach you in the on this, and it's just way better. They do a way better job of explaining things in succinct ways. And so I want to show you where to go learn how to do the CAD stuff, like the drawings and the extruding and the making of parts and stuff. They've done an extraordinarily good job at this. So yay. If you hit the Learning Center, it'll bring this up. And Onshape, lovely company, great supporters of FIRST. They're trying to sell you stuff. Don't buy anything. You don't, because everything you need is available under self-paced courses. If you go to Educator Resources down here at the bottom, just above App Store, okay, this is where you will find some, there we go. You will find these self-paced courses, and they moved it. Hang on a sec. I'm going to have to search for something really quick. There we go. Okay. They moved this. I apologize. I didn't see that. So if you click on Learning Pathways, Educator Resources, and they have CAD for Robotics competitions. If you click on this, they should have a pretty reasonable set of lessons on how to do Onshape with your robotics team. And so they have done all the work of doing what should be could have been an online class. And so I highly recommend that you follow do these guys. They're actually pretty good. I've done them already. Yay. And it turns out that they do a lot of stuff with FRC things in here, and you can learn a lot about how to run this program. So for today, what I wanted to focus on, and hopefully I did, was how to organize things, how to import stuff. So we're importing, we're going to download step files. You can remember to put them, always use the right-hand option, which is to put them in a part studio. Creating a composite never hurts unless you have a reason not to. That will get you parts down that you can actually play with. I showed you how to set up sort of some libraries and a trash file. And so as long as you kind of do that, yay. If you the actual drawing and stuff in subsequent next Monday, we'll get into a lot more of, hey, this is what this stuff does. And so next Monday, we'll spend a bit more time actually doing doing some assemblies. So we're actually going to do some assemblies. We'll do some drawings. I'll show you how to make your own little parts. The reality is I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time walking through the minutia of how to draw stuff. These CAD, these lessons do a much better job of that. A lot of the lessons are in video form. They're very short, and they've done a really good job at this. We have an in, by the way, the Naomi Edwards from Kettle Falls, just north of Spokane in our district. Turns out she is a full-time PTC employee, Onshape employee, and her job is to do all of this CAD, all of this curriculum stuff. So I'm going to invite her next week because and hopefully she can help us navigate some stuff. Okay, how am I doing? I've been chatting for a long time. Who's got questions? Did I lose anybody? Hi, Lily. You have a question? I saw your hand go up, but maybe not. Okay.
You're muted, Lily.
Oh, crap, we can't hear you. Select the microphone as a plugged in one, I guess, maybe. You can chat. All right. Type a question in the chat. That's awesome. Hey, squirrels, how'd it go? Who's got questions back there? None? Okay. It's all good. How do you group all? Oh, okay. Yes. How did I group all of the individual parts? Great question. Okay. So, Lily, what I'm going to do is I am going to show you a part. I'm going to show you a slightly different part that got imported and show you how to do that. Let me grab I'm trying to remember where it was. I think I'm going to go to a slightly different folder that I imported a much more complicated part. And that was Kevin playing around with import tests. And here is a swerve module. Yay! Patrick's swerve module right there. So that is a super impressive and complicated part. And I inserted this. I inserted this from another file, and I'm going to go show it to you right now. And next week, I'm going to spend only about 10 minutes on librarian stuff. And so this is a very complicated part that was imported. And it has 129 different parts in it. You can see that down here. And an interesting question is, if I insert that part into an assembly here, it's still in parts that can move around, and that really sucks when that happens. Okay, so one way was to import it as a composite. The other thing that you could do is you could actually you could take all of those parts, and this is the library part for that, right? So here's the part studio that I imported, and here's an assembly. And so what I'm going to do is, once I inserted the whole thing as an assembly, and again, these are all loose parts, right? They could be, they're loose parts. And what you can do is I can highlight all of them by dragging like this. And there's this group function, it's right there. And if I do a group on that, and this big long list of parts is what's going to go into the group. If I do a group like that, now they won't drag around. So that's a kind of like creating a composite part. It's a little bit different, but it sort of does the same thing. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go back to let's see. I'm going to go back to my Onshape with Kevin part. There we go. And actually, and I'm getting this out of a different library. I apologize. Oh, I know what I can do here. I will make this available to you guys as well, if you wanted to play with this for a sec. Share. I can add the team Onshape with Kevin. Yep, and you guys can have your way with it because, yeah, sure, why not? And so you now have access to OSK. So, all right. And so now you can see the difference between, hang on a sec, I'm going back to, so now if you go to Onshape with Kevin, you're going to find a new directory, OSK. So Onshape with Kevin, and I'm going to go find the Kevin Ross file, and I'm going to go to my assembly here, and I'm actually going to insert from another document, and I'm going to go to OSK, import tests, and I am going to the subparts folder. So sorry, let me do that slower. So I'm going to OSK, whoops, sorry. I'm going to Onshape with Kevin, the OSK folder, the imports tests folder, the subparts folder. Sorry, I buried this. This was totally unplanned. And imported subparts. And so here you can see there's that swerve module. And so if I insert this guy, it's going to take a sec. There it is. So I just inserted that, and that is a part studio part. Okay, and you can see that this is the one we didn't like, right? If I go do an insert again from the same thing, but look under assemblies, and I use assembly 1. I think it's working on it.
Do you have to click the check mark?
Yeah, and I don't know why. Now it's inserted 2 of them. Let's something went wrong there. I don't know exactly what. Let's try it again. Create a version. All right, assemblies, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so this assembly one, so this was the part studio version. This is the assembly one. You can see the assembly one is what you wanted. that make sense? So the assembly one is this thing over here done as a group. And now it won't fall apart.
So
Kind of
what-
esoteric.
What can't we do with that as a group? I mean, when we go to mate that in and put screws and nuts and bolts in, are there limitations?
Nope. Nope. You have access to all of, so you have access to all of the holes in the geometries.
Okay,
Things don't move. That is one downside to this because it's not a true assembly. So nothing moves, but it's static. But no, you can do just about everything that way.
okay.
Can you select the wheel and replace it with a macadam wheel?
Can I
Just
take
as a
this
stupid
wheel?
thing to do.
Oh, interesting question. So here is the assembly, and let me go find the wheel. Tons and tons of parts. There's I think that's the wheel. No, that's the mount.
Mount.
Let me go find the wheel hub. There's the wheel hub. There it is. Can I delete it? No, I can't delete it because it's part of a sub-assembly. Yeah, I can't do that. Over here, I can take
Mhm.
this guy. Whoop. Here I can select this wheel because it's just a loose collection of parts.
Right.
I believe I should be able to right click and delete it. So there, I just deleted the wheel, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So things that are assemblies you can't edit here. So the big difference is here I inserted a subassembly. Over here, I inserted a big block of parts, right? And it's treated as a big block of parts. And they're not related to each other at all. It's just a big mass of parts. Does that make sense?
But if we brought it in as a composite, it would be a mass of parts, but they would be related to one another.
Correct. And so this here, great thing. That's a great question and a great thing to point out, Tim. Thank you for that. Let me see if I can find it.
Actually, Onshape will hide the fact that it's a massive set of parts.
Yeah, but here, for example, you can see that this is a composite part. See this?
Right.
That's that wheel there. I do not have access to individual parts in the list over here. It is a large composite. I can click on stuff. There are geometries that can get clicked, but the difference is this composite part is a single line item, whereas the subassembly, this subassembly here is, you can see that it's a subassembly, right? And I can click down on it and I can still access the individual parts of the subassembly, but it's considered its own line item. This over here is it literally inserted 192 individual parts. They're not actually related to each other. So I could come in here and just, I could, delete all of these out of here, right? It's 100 and some odd parts that got thrown into the one file. Did that make sense? Lily, did that make any sense to you? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So one more time. A composite part gets inserted as a single thing. It's a single line item. Okay. An assembly here is inserted as a single thing. Okay. Single line item.
But it's a single thing with a hierarchy of parts underneath it.
A single thing with a hierarchy of parts underneath it. I am limited in what I can do to the things underneath it. There are lots of things I actually can't do. Deleting things is one of them. Okay. The thing that I inserted as a part studio, that's this over here. And if you'll remember, the difference was, so here is imported subparts. Ignore the name of that. Here is a part studio that makes up a Falcon module, and it's like 100 and some odd parts, and it's all of those. If I insert I can insert an individual part. Like here, I can insert just the thrust bearing. See, I can grab an individual part out of here, out of the part studio, because they're all individual parts. They are actually not related to each other. Or I can choose to import the entire part studio. That's every part listed under there, but they all just came in as individual parts. And if I come, all right. And so that, and if I look over here, you can see I just added a whole nother set of those, right? It was 131 parts came in. See there? The other thing I can do, I'm going to cancel that because I didn't really want to do that. If I come in here now, but if I insert the assembly, it's treated as a single unit, and I get a single unit, and the parts are, and because I've grouped them, the parts come as a unit and they move as a unit. Make sense? This is what screws up everybody's design, is importing parts as part studios and importing everything as individual components rather than assemblies. Does that make sense?
Kevin?
Yeah.
Would it be different with the assembly if you hadn't grouped them inside the assembly? Would it treat them as separate parts then?
Yes, it would. Well, here we'll go try. So I'm going to go back to imported parts here. Okay, I'm going to make it. I'm going to call this. I'm going to call this grouped. Grouped SDS. Okay. I'm going to create a new assembly down here. So I'm just creating a brand new assembly right here. Okay. And I'm going to rename this as not grouped SDS. Okay. And in this assembly, I'm going to just import that. There we go. Okay. So not grouped and grouped. So now I'm going back to my other file. This one. Nope. This one. Okay. All right. I have much crap here, but we're about to insert. Oh, and I have to create a version. We'll talk about versioning next time. Assemblies, I now have grouped and non-grouped. So we already had a grouped one. I'm going to now insert the non-grouped. And I'm going to put it right here. Okay. Now, the not grouped, which is this one, it comes in. Oh, and this guy here. Oh, just a sec. I have to update. I changed the library file, so it wants me to update it. And you'll see that the names are going to change. There we go. So now these guys are grouped and not grouped, right? So the grouped one, that was the original one I brought in, is still treated as a single unit. Okay. The not grouped one is still treated as individual components, right? They're just left under an assembly tab down here. So does that make sense?
Yep.
So the only difference was one of them, this is not grouped, and this one I did the grouping. Now you can go back and go ahead, question.
Oh, I was just going to say, just being an assembly doesn't make it stay together. But if it was an assembly that had mates, those would carry through, and therefore those would apply. Yeah.
And when you're looking at the contents of the document, assemblies. So the difference between this part, the difference between this part, which is an assembly, and a part studio. This, where did my part? Oh no, there it is. Sorry, this is the part studio that has all of the swerve drive parts in it. This is not a part. This is a part studio is a large collection of. It could be one part. It could be multiple. This is called a multi-body part. When you import it, it comes in as a multi-body part. So this is currently being treated as a bunch of parts. And so you can see them here and they're all listed out. Okay. And they have a spatial relationship to the origin. They don't have a spatial relationship to each other. They're not fastened to each other. They're just sitting there in space. haphazardly in a coordinated haphazard way, right? So when I insert this entire, everything out of this part studio into an assembly, they start out as just a cloud of parts related to the origin. And when I group them, what that does is it says, as a group of parts floating in midair, we are going to lock their relative positions. They're still not actually related to each other in any way, shape, or form, but their position in space relative to each other stays put. Next time, we'll talk a little bit more about so if this was a non-grouped, right? Here's the non-grouped one. And here, for example, here's a spacer, right? And a bolt. I'm going to take the spacer and the bolt, and I'm actually going to do a fasten. I'm going to fasten that to this hole. Okay. So now I have fastened that bolt, and now I'm actually going to also fasten this spacer to this hole. Okay. Solve. Okay. And so this was the not grouped version of that, right? I'm going to create a version of it. And I'm going to go back to our test assembly. And you can see it wants to update something. It wants to update that file, imported parts. And now if I go to the not grouped, so this is the one that should fly to bits, the non-grouped assembly. But it turns out that if I grab this thing and drag it, it's now associated. These parts are now linked together in an assembly like you would expect, right? So it has real live constraints to it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so normally when we're making an assembly, we're assembling some parts, we make a cool assembly, we have to link all the parts together using constraints, and that's how you make things move correctly and spin and rotate and do all that stuff. Did I just go? Lily, tell me if I did. Are you good? You still love me? I'm all right. Just check.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to do a little practice on our own to soak this in.
Yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't spend a whole lot of. Well, somebody in your team should probably take some time and figure out how to do. This importing stuff, and don't make them public yet. Don't let people use them just yet, because you're going to screw them up. Because let me show you another problem is that sometimes you import parts and you end up with these red things, and the red things are telling us that there are errors in the import. And if you go and import this thing in particular, you'll find out that I believe there's a hex. There's supposed to be see the hex hole in there. This hex hole is there's something wrong with the hex hole on that bevel gear where I've lost the bevel gear. Sorry, this bevel gear has a problem. Well, hey, it's non-grouped. I'm just going to drag it out real quick and let's have a look at it. There's something wrong with this bevel gear. It's telling me that the topology. Oh, there it is. There's a problem with the topology. There it is right there. It's missing a couple of triangles in the tooth. So it's an incomplete tooth, right? And this is such a pain in the ass to fix. And it's just something wrong with the model that somebody exported. This particular model came from Swerve Drive Specialties from Patrick up at Jack in the Bot. And it's just that, whoops, sorry. Oh, no, actually, there's a couple problems. This tooth is a problem. See, it's not unlike the other. And that,
yeah, this looks like those worn out gears we found on the field after the last game.
Yeah, it's realistic. This is what happens when you get a bolt in your gear. So anyway, and that is the source of these little red arrows. It's got an error. We'll talk about how to fix those. They're actually, when you download this model from Patrick, there's a whole bunch of errors in it. I fixed most of them. I couldn't, and actually I can replace this gear. I actually have a CAD model of just this gear. So that's how I was going to go back and fix this thing. But I thought I would do that in front of you guys to show you how to fix something. Too much?
Nope, excellent.
Eyes glazed over?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
This is,
So,
but this is good. This is good.
yeah. Again, the Onshape Learning Center, you can learn all of the basics of the program. It runs a lot like other CAD programs. If you're an old hand at CAD, there are some nuances. There are some things it does really, really, really well. And for all of those who know about the other CAD programs and inserting nuts and bolts, you can do amazing things. You can say, I'm going to put an 832 let's see, bolts and screws, hex bolts. I'm going to do socket head screws, and we're going to do 832s or 1032s. Sorry, that's what I wanted, 1032s. And your CAD program can't do this, is my guess. Is I can go along here and I can click all of these holes, and I can say, oh, gee whiz, this is awesome. And I would keep going, but I'm not going to. But I can hit insert, and it'll actually go through and put bolts in every one of those holes. And you do the same thing with the nuts. All the other programs, you have to go do each one of those individually. It really sucks. So this is like the greatest thing ever. If there's no other reason to move to Onshape, there it is. That is the best thing in history. Because
Very nice.
And this is where I want the computer aided manufacturing in our shop so that I just click on all those holes and all the bolts get inserted and the nuts put on.
Be lovely. It'd be
Yeah.
totally lovely. Yeah, and then and you can do the same thing with the nuts, right? So you go and come along and you need the 832 nuts. The downside to this program is their library of parts is not good. It makes me that's the only thing that's unhappy about it is sometimes. But anyway, so you can come along and you can decide I'm going to do the same thing. I think I may have just selected too many. No, there we go. I can come along and find all of the places where nuts should be and do like that. And then I should be able to hit insert. I think I just screwed up the last one, but we should get a whole bunch. There we go. There are all the hex nuts just showed up. So super cool.
Yeah.
Because students, remember this and remember this always. The reason for having a CAD program is to put the nuts and the bolts in your design so that you can figure out that what you intended to build cannot be built because the nuts and the bolts are going to be in the way. If you fail to put the nuts and the bolts, you're going to spend hours making something and you're going to find out that A, you can't put it together, or B, when it goes to slide past something, it won't. So I know that putting nuts and bolts in your design is a complete pain in the ass. It will save you more time than any other thing. The primary reason for CAD is to put the nuts and the bolts in your design. Just saying, that's years of experience talking of spending hours making something, realizing that the nuts and the bolts are getting in the way. You good with that?
Yeah.
Words of wisdom from a guy with gray hair and like very little hair left.
I had a car like that once.
Yeah. All right, dear friends. I think 90 minutes is probably a good stopping point. Hey, Lily, you were waving your hand. Did you have something? A question? You good? You're done for the night. You'd like to go to bed.
Thanks, Kevin.
I hear you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely. I will see you all hopefully next week. If it's always fun to see who actually is stalwart enough to come back for another dose.
We'll see you next Monday.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.